Arizona's the frontrunner to land Cameron Williams, the third-ranked player in the country.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Leif Thulin, your resident college basketball guru, stats nerd, point guard by game, and ball knower by trade. And I'm excited to talk Arizona hoops with you today. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen each and every day. And remember, Locked On Wildcats is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Wildcats, where the best way to help us grow is to comment anything below. And today's question is, will Arizona land Cam Williams, the five-star from Arizona, just like they did Koa Peat? Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today on the show, I'll break down the game and the recruitment of Cameron Williams, the fourth-ranked player per 247 Sports, and the third-ranked player per ESPN, who is from Phoenix, Arizona, and we'll parse through what matters and what doesn't from what Coach Lloyd and the players said on Media Day that happened in Kansas City just a few days ago in Big 12 Media Day. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Arizona, Texas, and Duke are the final three for the five-star Cameron Williams. Williams just took an official visit to Arizona on October 17th. That is important. We'll talk about that in a moment. Landing Cameron Williams might be the biggest recruiting win yet for Tommy Lloyd, should he do it, because I think Koa Peat lays the foundation for what could be a pipeline of talented, rangy fours to play at Arizona. I think he may be the first five-star to go there, and I don't think he'll be the last. Cameron Williams may very well be the second and further that foundation laid by Koa Peat. I think it's super important because Arizona deserves to be regarded as one of the big boys in terms of recruiting. They should be. They just had the second-ranked class in the country with Koa Peat and Brayden Burries as the headliners, Dwayne Aristode, amongst others, helping as ancillary pieces to that class that are set as foundational pieces with Brayden Burries and Koa Peat, no matter what recruiting service you use, as top 10, top 12 pieces, right? Not many teams can have two of them. Arizona has the best pair of freshmen in the country, like we talked about the other day. They can have another guy be the foundation to their class. That is what Cameron Williams can be. He can be the guy who says, you know what? I'm going here. You guys should come too. And if Koa Peat has a fantastic season, I really think it helps Arizona's chances to land Cameron Williams. I think Koa Peat will have a fantastic season. So let's talk about what Cameron Williams brings to the table, because he and Koa Peat are different. But I do think Koa Peat, who talks about his recruiting process, we'll touch on that later in the show, during Media Day, I think that clip of Koa Peat saying what drew him to Arizona from Coach Tommy Lloyd is what the Arizona should use on repeat in recruiting Cameron Williams. So according to Adam Finkelstein's article written about Cameron Williams and his recruitment, I'll give you a few notes, then I'll give you my assessment. It says he's a bouncy leaper, excellent runner, and can really cover the court at his size. He has a soft, natural touch and shows shooting potential to not only space the floor, but even shoot off the dribble with a relatively quick and natural release. I would add my own assessment that his shot does look natural. The quickness, I don't think matters all that much of the release because he's 6'11". But what does matter to me is he's super comfortable putting the ball on the deck. And if he's spaced out and you have to contest his shot, he's going to pump fake, blow by you, and put the ball on the deck and score, and is coordinated enough to finish with either hand. He's got a terrific offhand, and he even makes difficult finishes with either hand, whether off a post move or attacking closeouts. I love the versatility. I think this is the modern four. As I've talked about numerous times, the four, I think the point guard is the most important position because they control the most. But the position that is most important to having a dominant team is the power forward. Every good team recently has had a fantastic power forward that creates mismatches, attacks off the dribble, can space or dominate on the interior. They do something spectacularly. Arizona this year with Koa Peat are no different, and that's why I think Cameron Williams has a great chance to land in Tucson. As for the recruitment process, though, Duke and Texas are formidable opponents to try to beat out in this recruiting battle. Interestingly, Arizona and Duke both will have one-and-done forwards ahead of Cameron Williams and Koa Peat and Cameron Boozer. And I think it's difficult to try to, fight your way through. It's difficult. I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. I think it's difficult to say, you know what, these guys are gone. It's a foregone conclusion. And it's difficult to just make that the assessment and be like, yeah, you know what? We've got our guys gone. Let's recruit for next year. It's difficult to say that. Duke has done it for a long time. Kentucky did it nonstop, and it worked for them. It's difficult to say that's the best way forward. We'll talk about that. Tommy Lloyd discusses it. But currently, Arizona has 0 commitments the next year. And Duke has one. It's from Josh Howard's son. He's a shooting guard ranked 12th in the class. He's a 5-star. Texas is a 4-star. I think this bodes well for Arizona because the timing of dropping the top 3, saying, you know what, the top 3, here it is, Arizona, Duke, Texas. And Arizona just had a visit and he just went to Arizona on October 17th, 10 days before this episode's being aired. And he 10 and like 7 days before he announces his top 3, right? That happens. It's no coincidence that he's got Arizona high in his mind. That really bodes well to me. But I also think it's interesting that it's before the season starts. So it's before he sees Koa Peat. It's before he sees Cameron Boozer do his thing. I think it's difficult to say, wow, you know what? We should prioritize a year and ahead that this guy's going to be gone. But I think that's what has to happen in today's day and age because to be a 5-star, both with the monetary investment you put into a 5-star in terms of the NIL, and secondly, and perhaps more importantly, just the amount of assurance that they're going to have the ball, they're going to be let rock, do their thing. I think he has to know Koa Peat's gone. And that means that next year I'm going to have the Koa Peat role and I'm going to be a top 3 recruit in the country. So I'm going to be the guy. And I think making sure Koa Peat has that fantastic year and then moves on to the NBA is vital for getting Cam Williams to attend Arizona. And that is the reality of the strange world that college basketball is now. It really does confuse me because I think that is exceedingly rare in terms of winning championships. That's the way it's exceedingly rare. That's the way it has worked in order to win. But that is what is popular and has to be done now. Let's talk about why it's difficult to win this recruiting battle, but why it is so important to do so. Texas is hard to outbid. They've got a deep pocket and a lot of guys who will say, we want Texas to rise back to prominence, both in football and basketball, like they did with Mac Brown and having Barnes there with Kevin Durant when he was at the helm. It's also the most important for Arizona, and Duke's difficult because they've laid a foundation of one and dones for a while. But Arizona, it really does help them. And well, this is why it's such an important moment in Arizona recruiting history because Arizona just had the number 2 class in the country. They can be back as the big boy from the West Coast and get the guys they want. Any guy in the West Coast should come to Arizona because they just had the number 2 class. They should compete this year, and they set a precedent of, yeah, we're one of the big boys. You got to run through us and get and find a way to out recruit us to get anyone because we're going to be in on every single big time player, especially those from the West Coast, especially those from Phoenix, Arizona. Took his visit just a week before announcing his top 3. And this isn't it for Arizona either. The coaching staff's been active. They held visits with other top 26 prospects, including 4-star wing Cameron Holmes. And the situation is really interesting because the Wildcats have a crystal ball to land the services of Cameron Holmes. And he's from Millennium and in Goodyear, Arizona. And Arizona's also already offered scholarships to 2027. They're getting ahead of this, as all good teams do. But you could have the Cam and Cam duo of Holmes and Williams. Holmes ranked 30th by 247, 14th among shooting guards, and most importantly, 3rd in the state of Arizona. And Lloyd's battling to keep the premier recruits home. If he can do so, that is really big. Pete was a huge get. You don't see too many of those guys. Before that, Nico Mannion. By the way, I played against Nico Mannion. He was unbelievable growing up. Nico Mannion before that was one of the other ones that he kept in the backyard. Arizona actually is listed as warm and per 247 in recruiting Caleb Holt, the 5th-ranked player in the country, but he does appear poised to head to the SEC, whether to Bama or Kentucky. So in sum, Arizona's got a chance to land Cam Williams and have to be confident that they can land him to be the corner piece to an elite class, much like this past year with Peat and Burries, which ended up being ranked the 2nd-ranked class in the country. Tommy Lloyd recruited at Gonzaga and got these foreign players. He brought in Mo Krivas. He brought in Azulis Tubelis, guys from Lithuania, Estonia like Visar, and he brought in those guys. He can do that. Well, when Gonzaga leveled up is when they got the Chet Holmgrens, the Jalen Suggs. Arizona's got more of an allure as a bigger city in Tucson. They've got a bigger program with history of success. 1997 championship, the last one west of the Mississippi. Like Arizona can really have a lot of appealing pitches. And if Koa Peat is as good as we think and he's a one and done, Cameron Williams follows, I think Arizona will be routinely within the top 5 of recruiting classes year in and year out. Well, media day was a few years ago. Excuse me, a few days ago, not years ago. It feels that way because I've been parsing through the content for ages now. It was a few days ago. It's a lot of talking. It always is. But what mattered and what doesn't? Let's talk about that coming your way next on Locked On Wildcats. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, and there's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. It's just a difficult thing, but no longer. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games. The Arizona game, as low as $25. That's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All righty, welcome back to Locked On Wildcats. Leif Thulin with you here. We talked about the recruitment process for Cam Williams, number 3 per ESPN, number 4 and 247. No matter how you spin that, he's a stud. Arizona's got guys this year. Let's talk about media day. We know we've made a lot about Arizona being picked 4th, Ryan Hammer having them 6th in the Big 12. Let's talk about what Tommy Lloyd discussed on media day and what mattered about it and what was just platitudes that everyone has to say. So I'll start with what mattered to me. There's a lot of gabbing and not a ton matters, but this one did. Lloyd was asked about building teams in today's climate in reference to, buying teams via the transfer portal, the NIL, and how often teams just get old by using the transfer portal and not using freshmen. Well, the most important thing, he said, is we're building a team. And building the team has to be competitive and well-rounded and as solid as possible. And then you got a little mix. Who do the guys think you're going to have back and you always start with them. And we feel great. So I'm going to stop here and then I'll continue the rest of the quote. I love that. And Arizona had the second-ranked class in the country. So he really got guys that he believed in. Then he had the returners, Bradley and Krivas, whom I believe will be in the mix for postseason recognition if Arizona is as good as I think they'll be. And then he went on to say what I love even more. A lot of schools focus on the transfers. For us, the first thing we're doing is we're going to look at high school kids. I'm just a big believer that these guys are really good high school players, still got to have a place to go. And so sometimes they're maybe not as valued, or they're a little bit more forgotten about than they have been in the past. So we kind of fell into a group of freshmen, kind of one by one, that we felt great about. And as we looked at them, we were like, well, for the most part, these guys are better than any transfers we could take. So let's roll with these guys. And we feel great about those decisions. That was enormous. And if you're Cam Williams, if you're Cam Holmes, any of these guys that are in the Arizona backyard and you see that, you're like, wow, they're prioritizing my recruitment over going to get a transfer because Arizona's got money. They got to give it to someone. And they're choosing these difference makers that Arizona can get in the high school class. They're going to become a monster in the recruiting class. And I loved that response from Tommy Lloyd. And then I loved how he referred to some of those returners. Like the most important one to me is Jaden Bradley because he's the point guard. And then he spoke about Jaden Bradley. He was there with Tommy Lloyd, and he had glowing praise for him. He said, JB is somebody I really appreciate and value. And you're right, he's underrated. How do you handle that as a head coach? Do I get out and make all these crazy proclamations, say he's the best point guard in the country and all these things? I mean, sure, I could. And would it be so crazy to say that? But JB is also someone who's not fighting for the spotlight. He wants to do his job. He wants to serve the team, and he wants to represent his family. And he does an amazing job at all of those. So for me, going into the offseason, while we were figuring things out with our roller coaster, I had a great peace of mind knowing that we had a starting point guard coming back that is as good as he is. And that is as good a person as he is, and just being a winner. So I really value JB, and he played great in our exhibition game on Saturday. so you can see his experience shine through. So I think he's primed to have a great year. That's effusive for Tommy Lloyd, who's not necessarily the most effusive speaker. He's a thoughtful guy who is very articulate, but it's not like the colorful characters that you're going to get, like Rick Pitino, who's going to tell you everything on his mind, good or bad, and he's kind of snarky. He's not that. So that's effusive for Tommy Lloyd, but I also think it really underscores just how calm Tommy Lloyd was about where his team stands, and that's a really good thing because a lot of people are going to give you this lip service of, oh yeah, we're great, this person's great, whatnot. No, he's calm about the point guard position, which he hasn't been in a long time. It's a lot better of a feeling than having Kylan Boswell at 17 years old, then at 18 years old when he was a sophomore, or when he had Kirk Kriisa running the helm. And I think that was the defined weakness of the team that was a 1 seed his first year. And many people were like, oh, he's going to be really good. He had some big games, but he was inconsistent. And then Bradley last year, there was some growing pains, as he and Boswell a couple of years ago both played. Last year it was all Bradley, but there was just growing pains. My turn, your turn, Caleb Love, not enough shooting. But it's just you get years of an experience with some guy and you realize what he's really good at and you play to those strengths. And I think having him at the helm in a loaded Big 12 makes Tommy Lloyd sleep comfortably at night. Bradley, for me, I have big expectations for it, and I expect all conference representation with 15 points per game and all defense team honors. Next up are the guys that we've talked about the most in Koa Peat and Brayden Burries. Here's what Tommy Lloyd had to say about them. I think they're both mature beyond their years, and not only basketball-wise, but I think physically. They're winners. I mean, that part is so important. I know I'm going a little off script there, but they're winners. And that's really important because so many of these guys are unknown commodities. So he says, and they're winners, and they've really come in and been as advertised, whatever that means. So I really feel good. And when everyone else was aggressively shopping the transfer portal, I'm like, I don't think I can get 2 transfers better than these guys. So why even get distracted? So I feel really good about those two and what they mean for our program. They've been great in practice. I'm sure there's going to be some ups and downs, and there's going to be a learning curve. But the one thing I do know, they're competitors and they're quick learners. And so over the course of the year, they're going to step up and show themselves as premier college basketball players. I could not agree with anything more that was said in this entire media day. I listened to plenty of coaches because I'm just a total nerd for this stuff. But I loved that because the middle part of that is so important. Freshmen will make errors. They will make mistakes. And they're going to be magnified only because of their age, only because of their inexperience in college basketball. But it's not like they don't play basketball. It's not like they haven't played basketball before. But many players that are older still don't have that leash to make the errors because they don't earn it. They aren't as talented. The game changers that Brayden Burries and Koa Peat are as potential top 10 picks like Bleacher Report had them in last week. Those type of talents are so rare. If they make a mistake, of course it's going to be magnified because they're really, really good. They're the best players and the stars. For better or worse, they're going to get discussed and diagnosed ad nauseum, right? Like that's college basketball. That is what it is. Like when you'd rather have the problem of Koa Peat made an error and it's going to be talked about than not having Koa Peat because you went and got a transfer that's decent. Like last year, Trey Townsend was a good player for Arizona. He was fine. But he came in after averaging 17 at Oakland. His team, made the improbable upset over Kentucky, and Golke was a story. But Townsend was their best player. He comes in with high praise, and you're like, oh, man, we got a rock-solid player. You take Koa Peat all day, every day, and twice on Sundays because Koa Peat's better. If he makes a mistake that Trey Townsend wouldn't have made, it's because he had a larger leash to try to make something special happen that Trey Townsend didn't possess. And I mean no slight to Trey Townsend whatsoever. The guy was good. He did his job. But Koa Peat is the type of guy who can elevate you from a Sweet 16 team to a Final Four team because he's got that game-changing ability to win a basketball game with his unique skill set, athletic traits, and much, much more. Brayden Burries might miss some shots and maybe takes a few ill-advised ones. I mean, he's silky smooth. I don't know if he even does that. But when he does, it'll be more critiqued than when Anthony Del Orso does because Anthony Del Orso doesn't have the capacity that Brayden Burries does. And that's the thing that is so important to me to talk about ad nauseum here is the mistakes that'll be covered and overanalyzed by myself and many other pundits. It's important to recognize the reason that they're being talked about and they're being criticized is because they're really, really good. And you don't usually, I don't know who said this the other day, but I liked it. You don't typically get booed if you're unimportant. You typically get booed if you're really good. And I think that is what's so important to notice. And to tie this back into recruiting, Arizona can become a juggernaut because of that philosophy. So many teams are trying to get old and just outbid people in the transfer portal. Arizona went and got these guys and had a number 2 recruiting class in the country. They're trying to go get Cam Williams. They're trying to get Cam Holmes and say, you know what? You're going to play a feature. You're going to be featured prominently for our team, and you're going to have true chances to create your own legacy at Arizona and create a path where you're charting the path as a prominent leader of this team and a team that has aspirations to win a championship. Very few places can offer that because everyone else is bidding for the best transfer portal guys from the Missouri Valley, right? You take the top 10 freshmen at 18, according to Tommy Lloyd, over the top transfer at 22 from Missouri Valley. There's going to be some mix and match in there. But the reason that they're going to be criticized, the reason Koa Peat's going to be criticized when his jump shot isn't falling in a few games is because he's fantastic. And you take that fantastic guy every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Well, the players, including Koa Peat, went to media day. We'll talk about some of their quotes coming your way next on Locked On Wildcats. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan and love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. The NFL season is here, and the FanDuel has the offer for you that you will not want to miss. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Leif Thulin with you here for Locked On Wildcats. One last one from Coach Lloyd I wanted to touch on that I found interesting, but not enormously noteworthy because it's probably about the 10th man, 11th man, but it's about Bryce James. And I talked last episode about the freshman, and I talked about his shooting being something that's been spoken about. And he said Bryce and I have had a lot of conversations figuring out this year. You know, I mean, redshirting is a possibility, and I think. And the reason I say that is because I believe in Bryce. And you don't believe in somebody. I'm going to restart that because I was reading that and then I started thinking about what I wanted to say next. So I'll restart that and then I have an interesting point coming your way. Bryce and I have had a lot of conversations figuring out this year. You know, I mean, redshirting is a possibility. And the reason I say that is because I believe in Bryce. If you didn't believe in somebody, why would you spend extra resources on them or extra time? Bryce has been great at our place, and he's really starting to change his body. So I think one people don't realize about Bryce is he's a year younger than his class. So like he should be a senior in high school right now. So kind of helping him with that transition right now has been fun. I find this interesting because of the positive reviews about his shooting. And, you know, he's got tremendous genetics, to put it lightly, in terms of growth there. I think there's possibility. Tommy Lloyd carried on to say, my job is to respect him as a person and help him in his own journey. And that's our plan at Arizona. We got no extras. This is just, let's just help this kind of development into a great young man. And I think that's what his family wants and what he wants. And we're going to help him with that. That's appropriate. And I love that in today's day and age. And here's the thought I thought of while I was reading that, and it caused me to stutter. Villanova won 2 titles in 3 years in 2016 and 2018. And they had a ton of pros on those teams. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Ryan Archidiacono. You go on, Dante DiVincenzo, all these different guys, Eric Paschal. Most of those guys redshirted. And they had multiple top 10 picks. Guys have been all-stars in the NBA. Virginia won in 2019. DeAndre Hunter went number 4 overall in the draft and redshirted. Like, there's a reason to invest in players. The process matters, and Tommy Lloyd referring to that sticks out to me. And I want to see what the decision is on Bryce, but I really like that response, not just about Bryce, but just in general, because it is a commitment to care about a player and want their best, the best for you and for them, a symbiotic relationship. And too many players and coaches are content in today's day and age to say, you know what, you're not going to play much, see ya, and best of luck to you because you're going to go to the transfer portal. I think if there was a red shirt, it could really mutually benefit each side in this. I really do value that. And I thought, as I was reading that, I was like, man, that is a fantastic thought by Tommy Lloyd the further I got into it, because the Villanova team, most of those guys I listed that are mainstays in the NBA, redshirted. And then the next one, this is a platitudes answer based on what I typically find dry, but I do enjoy the end of it because I think there's a sneaky allusion to who's playing well right now. This is from the point guard, Jaden Bradley. He said in response to who stood out all summer, he said, we got Mo Krivas, we got Dwayne Aristode, we got Brayden Burries. I could pretty much go down the whole list. That's the platitudes, right? Our whole team. But those three that I just picked out, you're definitely going to see a lot of them. And I'm excited for the rest of the world to see them as well. I think picking those three out is really important because Mo Krivas had 11.17 rebounds against St. Mary's. Dwayne Aristode, there's a lot of buzz around Tucson about untapped potential. That means it's been substantiated. And then you got Brayden Burries, and he's been 22 points out of 45 in the scrimmage. And then you have his 5 for 7 performance against St. Mary's. Like, that guy is all substance. And you love to see that it's an everyday thing, not just the little we've been able to see. And everyone says great things about their teammates, but to me, the breakout guy is going to be Mo Krivas, and he should average a double-double if given the moments. And then let's end with two big quotes from Koa Peat. Pete outlined why come to Arizona. And he said this, and this is what I think should be the recruiting pitch for Cam Williams and all the players coming forward. I think the development plan they put together for me during my recruiting process was, and he proceeded to say, it really helped me pick my decision to come here to play for a U of A. And just the way Coach Lloyd uses his fours and the way the structure of the offense, I mean, he's going to let you play, but there's obviously a structure. But in that structure, he's going to let you have freedom and play your game. And you got to play both sides of the ball. You can't just rely on offense. You got to play defense too. Like I said, that's the recruiting pitch for Cam Williams. And you can play this on loop and show him how you're going to use Koa Peat. And once you have clips of Koa Peat playing that way, you say, okay, that's you next year. You come here, you're going to be a top 10 pick. That's the pitch. And the next one has me curious. This is the one I wanted to end on, a little tease for you guys, because it has me salivating for the season, but also very curious if I'm just picking up on something stupid or if there's something here. Pete was asked about building chemistry with different teammates and the early expectations. He says, it's been great playing with the point guard like JB and a great big like Tobe. Tobe goes out there and plays as hard as he can, and I think that definitely brushes off on all of us and all the team. He sets the tone in that manner, and then JB is going to find you. He's going to put you in good spots. He's going to help you get into good spots and then score. And then we got a lot of other good players that just, I feel like we've got a really good, we've built a really good chemistry, not just on the court, but off the court as well. I think that's going to help our team in the long run. So this sounds a lot to me like Arizona's playing fast because Bradley gets downhill, and when he does that, he can find more players. And if he's talking about the half court, that's a huge boost because that means Jaden Bradley's finding the right people and creating advantages on his own. But the more important part to read on this is, in my opinion, is him talking about Tobe Awaka. And it points to him playing more with Tobe than he has with Mo. And maybe that points to Tobe being there at Media Day. But to me, that makes me wonder, is Tobe going to be the starting center? Because myself and Ryan Hammer believe Big Mo is the best big on the team and has a chance to be an all Big 12 caliber guy who's going to put up a double-double. I think he's the most talented big on the team, not counting Koa Peat. And the reason that he could refer to Tobe is that he was there along with Jaden Bradley. So maybe this was in reference to the guys with him, just out of deference. But to me, this could be an important snippet and a preview to see what he's more comfortable doing, playing alongside Tobe Awaka than he is Mo Krivas. And Mo Krivas started in the scrimmage, but I'll remind you, Tobe Awaka didn't play. I'll be very curious to see if Tobe Awaka or Mo Krivas starts on the game that will be happening today. We'll review that game coming up on tomorrow's show when you guys listen to that. So I'm very curious to see if that's real or if that's just in deference to the guys with him, the veterans that were brought to Media Day along with the star freshmen. So thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you guys think. Are the Cats going to get Cam Williams? Like, is he the guy to follow Koa Peat? And is Arizona now a national powerhouse recruiting if they can get Cam Williams? Let me know on that. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, Arizona plays tomorrow. You're going to see them play basketball again, and that's awesome. And we'll talk about that, review the game, go through many other notes, and also talk about a little bit of the football situation and just how much danger is there that the Cats will miss the bowl games. All that and more ahead this week on Locked On Wildcats. And I also want to let you guys know, I appreciate you guys for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big 12. Drake Toll breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports, from rivalries to the championships and the big games in between. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the recruitment of Cameron Williams and what you thought of those Media Day quotes in the comments below, and I'll engage with you guys there.